a trusted partner to prove the F performance is500 as worthy of the Lexus nameplate. We looked at social media and contacted master businessman Silverback Jack.
I'm sorry to ruin your day, but we have to cover the pros and the cons of the IS500. Interior, technology, and then back to the drive. Now, we all know that the IS has been around for quite a while, and this is just an updated version of it. Body structure, interior technology, and of course, throwing in a V8. Now, in terms of the interior space, people have been clamoring for an affordable F car with 4 doors for quite a while, and now that the GSF is dead, this kind of fills in the gap. I will say you have to scrub your brain of performance for this. They're adding the V8, they're giving you a little bit more power and all of that comes along with it, but this is not supposed to be like an M3 competitor. Just, if you're expecting that, you're gonna be highly disappointed. What this is a luxury car that gives you some of the spirit of the V8, which we know is going away permanently. So when you look at the inside, it's a mix of old and new. Like, the updates are technology. They now give you a touchscreen version of the last generation Lexus infotainment. Whether they update it or not over the air, I'm not sure, but just plan on being stuck with this. You have the center stack, which looks almost lifted out of the RC, and some of the elements of the old IS in here. Now, the good thing is, yes, most all of this is physical controls. There's a window shade in the back that's a physical control. Selectable fake engine noise sound here that you can defeat, which you couldn't do in the RCF, which is great to have here. The reason there is induction noise or fake noise that's pumped through the speakers is because they haven't routed the sound tubes from the engine into the cabin like they do on the LC500, so it's supposed to augment that. Now, in terms of the negative, yes, they've now plastered piano black and all in the center part where you interact with it every single day, and it really sucks. The back seats are pretty usable if you're a smaller person. Again, there are back seats, unlike the RC and the LC, which are completely pointless, and there is a great trunk. So the point is, between the storage capacity and the doors, the cup holders and all that, this is a real usable car that you can operate every single day, and it's something that if you're spending this money, you want to be able to use it, not just be a toy. So let's head into the shop. We're going to talk about some of the technical things that they've done here with the car and then go tear this up on the streets. After 60 years of waiting for a return or follow-up to the ISF, Jack, we don't have one. It's an IS, the updated IS, with the V8 slapped into it. I feel like we're talking about a Dodge product here.
Moment of silence though, Mark. This is going to be the last, or apparently the last iteration of a new Lexus product with this naturally aspirated V8. I know that makes you cry a little bit.
I'm waiting for them to put the CVT in this.
When you told me that this wasn't front-wheel drive, CVT, and an SUV, I threw up.
The main thing really with the new generation Lexus products before the next generation Lexus products is they're trying to give the brand a mission, some uniformity. And they've said publicly, all their leadership, they kind of have been feeling their way through how they wanted to take this. They kind of went from boring, reliable cars and then to another extreme reversal. Now they're going to electrification. But at least with this car, this was one of the first that they have standardized on their test track in Japan that they built for creating a Lexus driving signature. So all future vehicles will have this same type of feel. And from all of the technical parts that we talked about, like laser screw welding, all the advanced adhesives, this is stuff they're doing to all their new cars. Yes. This is not really anything new. It's just the first time the IS has gotten this. But the main thing is drivability. It's It's way more compliant than the older ISs were. If you get out of the ISF and into this, there's a noticeable difference in ride quality. So let's talk about what they did for the IS500 specifically.
So one thing I want to bring up though very quickly is what's unique about this product versus most other Lexus products is the IS500 is actually an American market requested vehicle. The heads of Lexus and Toyota in North America are the ones who requested this, and that's why this thing exists in the first place, which is really, really cool. But from a drivability perspective, Mark, you have what you have on basically every IS. Double wishbone front suspension with adjustable dampers, and it's all aluminum in the front, which
Adjustable
is huge.
means AVS, so they're
Yes.
electronic dampers that can change their settings based on road conditions, read ahead, drivability, all the stuff that all the advanced electronics do now. So it's more soft, or on the softer side as we talked about from the test track stuff, and they have an all aluminum front end. So the subframe, all the suspension components are all aluminum, and that's because the carrier, and most of this is from the defunct GS,
Yes.
which if you know anything about the GS, that's a big touring car, big sedan, and it also could fit a V8, which means they could also fit a V8 in here because of that. Now, the back half has been modified.
Yes, there is a additional damper in the rear that helps with low speed NVH issues and high speed stability. The suspension tuning also, I want to bring this up, is unique and specific to the IS500. This is not a carryover from the IS350. You also have specific brakes to this car as well. You have two-piece rudders, and they are larger than what you get on the standard IS350 for increased thermal capacity.
And they look almost identical to that's on the LC500, the two-piece design, which is not removable. It is a one-piece, but a two-piece design.
And they're shrouded in some unique and specific to this car Inkei wheels, which are 19s, and lighter than what you find on the IS350.
So the other part is this comes standard with the dynamic handling package, which means you have a torsion rear differential, and you do not get the variable gear ratio steering that you get in some of the upper end products, however. And there is no option for a torque vectoring differential like on the RCF.
Or a rear steer module like the LC500. This is a honest-to-God rear-wheel drive sports car with a torsion rear diff that likes to go very, very sideways.
Transmission, you get one option, 8-speed, carryover. It's in the same family as the F-Sport transmissions, the 8-speed in the F-Sport and the RCF. The difference is the tuning. It's really all electronic tuning. The one thing that they didn't do here, which is going to be the biggest argument, is they did not add any engine oil cooling like you have in the RCF and the GSF products, which means you are going to get this oil very hot if you plan on taking it to a track. And most tracks or shorter tracks, you're going to get 6 laps before that oil temperature pegs out. However, they did add a transcooler. And if you look at the transcooler placement, it is on a bracket that is unique to this car, which could also house the oil cooler that you could pull directly out of the RCF. There's a canister here style with 2 lines that you could easily run and mount that if you really wanted to do that. But I want to make this clear, this is not a pure F product. This was not designed to be a track car. It's that kind of fun sedan like you said.
It's an emotional car. If you look at this objectively and you compare it to some of its German rivals, it may seem a bit lacking on paper, but this car was meant to make you smile.
We're going to talk about that during the drive and what it's like, and I've already kind of covered some of the mentality on the interior, so let's head out to Autobahn Country Club, Jack.
All right. IS500 Mark, and we're here at Autobahn Country Club to do a little bit of a hybrid street spirited drive in one of my new favorite cars currently in the planet, and this is the IS500 because it has a V8. Mark.
So that makes everything better?
It makes everything better. Once you pair a V8 with a torsion diff, suspension that's probably a little bit too soft, and a long wheelbase, it leads to one of my favorite things in a car. But before I show you that, I think it's important we talk about what this is and what it is not.
Okay, well 10 years ago, if this car would have had a V8, people were like, so what? now, it's sad to say, that throwing a naturally aspirated V8 in here is like the retro rage, but there's some truth to why everybody is clamoring for something like this. It's going away, it's disappearing, and there's a lot of theater and character that it brings a car like this that has kind of been underwhelming with just its old V6, and this brings it back into a little bit of relevance, at least for the enthusiasts.
Yeah, it's crazy that this is a car that you can't look at from an objective perspective. If you compare this to some of its German competitors, particularly from a performance metric, it is severely lacking.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is the transmission. You know, we talked about this with many people, like, is this a car that we can buy and keep long term? And I'd say yes, because it's going to hold its value. They're not going to make a ton of them. It's going to be something that a small group of people are going to love to have. But in 10 years from now, the transmission is going to feel horrible. It already feels at least 8 years old. And when you compare it to, like you said, the Germans, the ZF gearboxes, even the Lexus 10-speed, this is such a jerky experience if you're going to drive it like with in manual mode with the pedals.
But if you do this,
oh yeah.
If you drive it like I want to drive a car, you forget about all of that. You can do that in an M3, but you don't get the noise out of this thing.
Yeah, that's true. So from a street perspective, Jack, the highlights are this engine's amazing. It really is. It's got just enough power and performance for the street. It's more than enough performance. It sounds great. It's got that character to it that's lacking in new cars. The transmission's great when you're going flat out.
Yes.
In manual mode, Sport Plus, it's great. If you take manual control in like mid RPM or whatever, you just want to leave it in automatic, and that's just the way you're going to have to deal with this.
Yeah, when you're out here on the track, I mean, we talked about it a little bit in the shop. This is 0% a track car. It's way too soft.
It's a total luxury barge. It feels super comfortable, and you drove it today on the highway for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it was perfect. And the fact that I can do this.
Yeah, if you really want to be an asshole, you can. You're just not going to be. This is not a lapping car. It's not fast at all. It's just purely a car for just
for
to
this.
Just to have fun with it. So you have the ultimate V8 drift missile, and you can enjoy this on a daily commute. It is so soft, so quiet. The audio system's good. So the question is, Jack, should you buy this car?
If you love Lexus and you can if you're okay with a car doing what I like a car to do, you should absolutely buy this car because you know it's going away. You know this is the last ever new Lexus with a naturally aspirated V8. All of this is going the way of the dinosaur, and no one else is doing it this way. And unlike an FCA product that also goes sideways and has a naturally aspirated V8, I'm not worried about this breaking.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about having a shitty dealer experience.
You know, if we did what we did today and like the Hellcats or whatever, I'd be like, I'd really be worried that we're gonna make it home. But with this thing, you know, you've gone to the extreme with this car, and it is amazing that it can handle this. And I'm not recommending you do that to your own car, but that's what Lexus is. They've undertuned it, they've underdone a lot of things so you know it's gonna last. And I can testimonial having an LC500, I absolutely annihilate that car, and it is the same day in and day out, and I think that's what you can expect from the IS500. But let's get into the final thoughts, Jack, and sum all of this up.
All right.
Final thoughts on the IS500. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, money. There is a base trim level for $56,500 if you could even find that. You have the premium trim, which is $61,000, adds triple beam LEDs, the Mark Levinson nav, the power rear sunshade, and some proximity sensors. Then the launch edition for $67,000 gives you a numbered plaque and some special colors. And you might ask, you would have to be have some screws loose to buy a car like this that feels this old and dated for that kind of money. And if you're that type of person, I'm definitely not gonna argue with you. And you know I own a Lexus product, but I can't justify what this car is and what it's bringing to the table when you have something like M3s, S4s, this G70 with a V6 and rear wheel drive, or the TLX Type S. Most of these cars in every performance metric would mop up the IS500. They feel vastly more modern. In the case of technology, it blows the IS500 away. So why would you consider it? Well, the truth is, this is a swan song for this engine. It's a swan song for this generation of car. So what you're buying is a new car that is almost a generation and a half old. So what you're getting is something that's proven reliable, that's going to take you into this transition that all these companies are promising us or pledging that all these cars are going to be EVs or plug-in hybrids, all of them by like 2030, which I don't even think is feasible or possible, but you know that you're going to have a car that's going to take you 10, 15 years into the future, still going to hold its value. Yes, you're going to obliterate yourself at the gas pump, but it is a car that is an emotional purchase. Jack said it, you're not buying it for the specs. And is that a cop-out? Is it an excuse? In some ways, yes. But as a highway cruiser, this thing is amazing. Just as good, if not better, than the G70, the M3s of the world, the S4s. It is a supple ride, a quiet, refined ride, and you have that V8 sound. But, you know, the interior technology, the infotainment, pretty much anything technology-wise, it's a big, big downer for this. And then the transmission already feels dated. So again, is it worth buying a car like this for the engine and some of the styling? I'll leave that up to you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.